Hi, angels, and welcome. I'm your host, Lisa Everding, founder of Earthy Angels, and I'm on a mission to empower women to live authentically and to take exquisite care of themselves. You can find us on earthyangels.com or head over to our show notes to follow us on socials. Angels, today I want to share with you something that I've seen a lot of in the studio lately, a lot of friends and people that have been confiding in me. It's the same recurring theme, and I've been through it and I'm seeing people go through it. And so I really want to help navigate you through this time in your life where you may feel like the spiritual journey is lonely. You may feel like people don't get you anymore. You may feel like friendships or relationships or careers have ended, and you might feel like things are happening to you when they're actually happening for you, for your highest good, but it's difficult at the time. So I want to take you through a bit more of a deeper understanding so that you can see it from a new perspective, but also give you some tools, some insights, some support in how you can navigate this challenging time in your life. Hi, angels. I want to start by apologizing in advance if this gets a little bit noisy in the background. It should be okay, but it is blowing an absolute gale out here today. It's one of those weekends where it is rainy, it's windy, it is just that feeling of, it just makes you want to retreat. Actually, it does. It makes you want to retreat inside. I was spending my spiritual practices this morning outside, like enjoying some of that wind, enjoying some of that. I like watching the rain. I think it's really cleansing and restoring. But also, now that I just think of it, I've come inside to record, right? I've come inside to have a chat with you guys. And when I look at the wind, when I look at that kind of real shake up of weather, that real, like the winds of change, that energy of, it's kind of out of your control a little bit, I guess, when I sit and watch a storm or I watch, a day like this, that's kind of how I feel. And that's probably really reflective and really divine timing for what I'm going to chat with you guys about today. It's like the winds of change. It's like stepping outside of the elements, stepping outside of the chaos of what's going on the outside, or things that are out of your control, or the storms or those seasons, to step back inside and to go inside and to just look at yourself and to really retreat, withdraw, and go within. So what I want to dive into is something that I have seen a lot of around me lately. It's something that I have been through myself on many occasions, and I will continue to go through, as will you. You may have been through it, you may be sitting in it now, or you may find that it's prepping you for something that you're about to go through, which is like the winds of change, which is change happens in our life, and change can be really, really hard, but change is also needed for your growth. And the specific topic that I'm going to talk about today is a spiritual journey can be lonely, can feel like it's lonely. It is often what is needed, and it can show up in your life in the form of relationships breaking down, all sorts of different types of relationships, whether it's working relationships, whether it's personal friendships, marriages, any type of relationship in your life. Sometimes people go their separate ways, and it can make you feel a little bit isolated. It can make you feel like people don't get you anymore, or people don't understand you, or vice versa. And it can make you feel a little bit of, why has this happened? What's wrong with me? What's going on? It can make you feel all sorts of emotions around, obviously, pain, grief, frustration, resentment, blame, sadness. You can go through all of these different emotions. But I want to start off by leaving you with things aren't happening to you. Things are happening for you for your highest good, which you may not see when you're in the thick of it. But you may look back and go, okay, that's actually what is needed. But at the time, it just sucks, right? Like at the time, it's hard, it's painful, and it's a lot to process and a lot to digest. So like I've had people around me lately who have gone through friendship breakups or marriage breakups or change of jobs, change of careers, or women just simply chatting with me about my friends aren't, or my people around me aren't fulfilling me anymore. And it's not a better than, it's not a I've outgrown them, I'm better than. It could be, but it's also just this fact that you just feel a little bit lonely. You might feel like people around you aren't including you. You might feel like you don't want to spend time with people. You might feel like you want to be alone a little bit more. You might feel just this emptiness, or just this, who am I? What do I want? What's going on around me? These people I've been friends with or have known or have been a part of my life for years and years and years, I actually don't know who they are anymore, or I actually don't know who I am anymore, or I actually just don't relate to them anymore, or I just don't feel any value in this relationship anymore, or I just feel like I just need to go and figure myself out a little bit. And these are not bad things. Like these are not, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? Like there's nothing wrong with you. And it's nobody's fault. These things can just happen in our life at times, because I want you to remember the most important thing is every single person, you and them, every single person is here for their own soul growth, their own soul purpose, their own soul evolution, their own soul journey. And people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. You come into people's lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Sometimes you think that these people that are going to be in your life forever actually turns out that you're not meant to. And that's okay, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to be disruptive. It's going to stir up a whole lot of emotions in you that you may be prepared for, you may not be prepared for. This might have caught you unexpectedly. And there's going to be so many different scenarios, and I can't cover them all, but you take out of it and you relate to it how you're feeling at the time, because we're all in different phases of our lives. You know, like some of us are younger, some of us are more mature, some of us are at the process of starting to go into marriages, or maybe leaving school. You know, I've even seen it with my kids. You leave school and relationships change, relationships drift apart. You may be having going through that stage of your life where you're having kids, people around you aren't having kids, your kids are older, you're at the other scale, and your kids are leaving school, and some people around you haven't been through that yet. You might find that you change different mum groups because of the different stages that you're going through. You may find that you're going through different career changes. What you're doing in your career is not fulfilling you anymore. You may feel like friendships or marriages or so many different relationships or so many different stages of your life are going through a change, or are going through a change voluntarily, are going through a change by force and something out of your control, by in a way that's uncomfortable for you. So it could be like a fight, right? It could be a disagreement. It could be a fight. It could be someone's left you. It could be so many variables of different things. It could be a loss. You could be going through feeling a real period of loss, of heartache, of grief, of actually losing somebody in your life. There are so many different variables that I can't speak specifically to every individual situation, but you will understand the gist of what I'm saying, and you will understand, you will take out of it what you need. Even like I always say, even if it's like one line that you take out of this to give you a little bit of peace, to give you a little bit of clarity, to give you a bit of support or nourishment, or help you understand or help you move through something that you're going through. Take out of it what you need. And something I heard just recently, and it has stuck with me, is rejection is God's protection. However you want to interpret that. God, universe, source, angels, guides, whatever. Rejection is protection. So sometimes that feeling of an ending, or that feeling of somebody has left you, or that feeling of you not being included as much anymore, or it can actually be a form of protection for you, but it's hard because you don't realize that at the time when you're going through all of these emotions. So I just want you to really remember that is this rejection could be protecting you from something. This rejection could be protecting you from something that you need to get rid of in your life, that you need to change in your life. It's there for you to protect you in some way that you may not understand yet. But I get it that a spiritual journey can feel lonely at times, and not the whole time, but you might go through a period where you feel a little bit alone, where you feel a little bit isolated. And sometimes that is needed for you to step back and for you to focus on you for a bit, for you to work on you for a bit. And that's what your heart and soul needs at the time, because as much as humans need relationships, humans need other humans, we need people, we need love. Like, love is one of the highest energies. We also need to retreat from the world a little bit to work on ourselves and to work through our stuff and to figure out who we are and what we want. And that's okay. So if you are feeling that you're feeling a little bit lonely, and I've been through this, I've definitely been through this. I've had conversations with some really close friends, friends who are like kinesiologists or in that spiritual world around, I feel like nobody gets me anymore. I feel weird. I feel like I've changed. I feel so different. I feel alone. I feel like I'm just, it's so hard to put into words sometimes, when you just feel isolated and you can just feel like you're different from other people, or you're different from friends that you have been the same, you've had the same interests, the same likes, the same things that you used to enjoy just don't do it for you anymore. So you may be starting to feel this little bit of a stirring inside that you're just not aligning with people anymore. And that's okay. I'm just here to reassure you that that's okay. This is good. Like, this is needed. So as hard as it is, go with it, right? As hard as it is, just deep dive into it a little bit and just ask those questions. Why am I feeling this way? What's this bringing up in me? And reflect a little bit on what's happened, because sometimes you go through a period of self-growth and it's actually needed, and you actually do outgrow some people. Sometimes people outgrow you, I'm sure it definitely goes both ways. But you can go on this self-growth spiritual journey where you outgrow some people, and it's not in a way of I'm better than that person anymore. It's never in a way that it's not in a bad way. You just discover that they don't fulfill you anymore. Sometimes you break away because deep down your soul is pushing you in a different direction with different people who you actually need to bring into your life, people that will uplift you or inspire you or add value to you and you to them, and vice versa. And you need to break away from some people to find this new circle, because if you keep clinging to the old, if you keep repeating the same patterns, you're not going to open yourself up to bring in the new. So going out with the old, clearing, cleansing, releasing out with the old is opening the doors to bring in the new. So this is a good thing, right? Even though it's hard at the time. Sometimes your soul knows that you need to find yourself outside of other people, because you can feel stagnant, you can feel stale, you can feel bored, you can feel like there's no growth for you within that circle anymore. So you just get this feeling of restlessness, or just feeling like you just don't belong anymore. Sometimes people might hold you back. You may realize it, or they may have been doing it and it's taken you a little while to figure that out. So they can be holding you back by you being stuck in this maybe toxic relationships, or they may be people around you that whinge, that complain, that depend on you so much, that boss you around, that are controlling, that kind of keep you small. So a break in the friendship is needed for everyone involved to grow, and so that you can all find yourself. You might be that person that is a little bit bossy or controlling, or kind of clinging to people to keep you all small together, because people cling to what's comfortable and what's familiar. And sometimes when you watch people outgrow you, you try to cling to them. You try to keep them at your energy, your vibration, your energetic place that you're at the moment. So they may need to break away from you. And remember, there's no right or wrong here. There's no good or bad, better than or worse than. I just want you to reflect with what I'm saying, because you're going to know what I say is either going to bring something out in you that is going to highlight something and bring it to the surface that you can work through, or I'm going to trigger the fuck out of you, right? Like, I'm going to say something that is going to trigger you, and you're going to be triggered in a good way, that it's just going to help you let go. It's going to help you release. It's going to help you look at your stuff a little bit, right? I get triggered. Like, sometimes my kids trigger me, and I remember our kids are like a reflection of us. The things that trigger them in me are probably things that I need to work on, because life gets reflected back to us. Life gets mirrored back to us. So things that annoy us or we get triggered in other people, actually things that we need to work on ourselves. So it's not a bad thing, okay? If I'm triggering you, that is not a bad thing. We all need to grow. We all need to find ourselves and find who we are and what we love and what lights us up and what we have to bring to the surface. I've gone through periods in my time where I felt like friendships had drifted apart, and friendships like right throughout the years, like when my kids were younger, right to where I'm sitting at right now, right to when I was a teenager. There's been times in my life where I've seen friendships have drifted apart, even recently. And it's not in a bad way, and it's not that anything went wrong, like I would reach out and just catch-ups wouldn't eventuate, or people are just busy, and I would start to question myself and think, have I gotten weird? Like, has this deep dive spiritual journey made me a bit more of a weirder person? Like, things like that would go through my head. Or what have I done wrong? Have I done something wrong? Have I offended them? Have I not been there enough for them because I've been so focused on my work and my family and what I'm involved in? And all those questions would kind of go through my mind, and you would look at yourself, like, what have I done? Have I said something wrong? Have I, are they cut up because of this thing that happened? Or all those questions would go through your head. And then I had to stop and look and go, sometimes people just get busy doing their own stuff. People are on their own journey. Like, I have a really amazing group of women around me who are on their own soul mission, on their own soul purpose. And I know that we're just all busy doing our own thing, right? We've got our own interests, our own passions, our own businesses, our own career path, our own desire to travel, our own desire to be more with our family because they're getting older, and we're kind of spending as much time with them as they can before our kids fly off and, leave the nest. That we're all just busy doing our own things. And you go, okay, that's okay. We just need to dive into our own stuff a little bit. And if we come back around together later on, that's good. If we're not meant to, that's okay too. Because remember, season, reason, or lifetime, just accepting people where they're all at, where you're at, and where other people are at. And maybe we need to go on our own soul, on our own growth. Maybe we've got what we needed out of each other for a little period to inspire one another, which is freaking amazing, right? To lift one another, to leave some seeds of growth and opportunity and empowering this other person, and they have for you. And now you need to go on your own way a little bit to dive into your purpose for a period. So that's okay. So like, I've gone through periods like that as well. I've gone through hard, friendship breakups as well, where you may have had a falling out, and that's fine. It was needed. Season, reason, or lifetime. Remember, like, I've had periods in my marriage, like, my marriage is not always perfect. It's not always roses like every other marriage out there, because that's relationship. That's part of being a human, right? Is learning to work on yourself, learning to coexist with other people, learning that people highlight things in you and vice versa. And I've had periods in my life where I felt like my marriage has gone through challenging times where I'd feel like, what's wrong with me? Like, Tom doesn't get me anymore, or, like, we're just triggering things in each other, or we're not being as, like, you might have arguments, you might have fights, you might feel a little bit distant in your marriage, and we went through a big period of that last year as well. And now I look back and I know that we were both going through our own periods of self-growth, of readjustment, and And there's been different times where we have both been stuck a little bit. Like I said to my friend, I said, sometimes I feel like every time I would level up spiritually, we'd fight. Every time I would go through a bit of a change in myself, we would fight or argue or just go a little bit distant. And I would find that I would kind of step back. I have a weird way of looking at things. So I don't know, call me weird, call me different. I just look at things from a completely different perspective. And I would kind of think to myself, maybe at a subconscious level, because we have this human part of us and we have this soul part of ourselves. And sometimes the human part of us the fear reacts in anger or fighting or not talking or withdrawing or like cold walling, stonewalling each other or all those things. But it can come from this deep rooted soul place of fear. Are they outgrowing me? Are they going to leave me? Are they not the same, like are our interests changing? I'm stuck and this person's, like this person that you could be close to, it could be in a relationship, like a marriage or a friendship. I'm feeling stuck, but I can see them shining. So it might cause a bit of, it's just like this different vibrational energy, right? You're just at different places at different times. So I would feel, or I'd go through different times in my marriage where we would feel disconnected. I would feel like I would level up in a certain way, or Tom would level up in a certain way, and I would have those feelings towards him that I just explained. And then we'd come back together again, like this kind of comeback where we're kind of even vibrating at the same place. And then you'd go through a discord or a disconnect again, and you feel like, one party is leveling up. Then it's like these levels, like in a game, right? Like where you kind of constantly level up, plateau, and you will both go through that at different stages, at different times. You don't always go through that. It's not like this beautiful, even playing field where, let's both grow at the same time, then let's plateau at the same time. Let's grow, let's plateau. It's not like that. And for good reason too, because in that process of growth and in that process of self-discovery, you might find things about yourself that you will teach your partner, or you will teach your children, or you will teach your friends, or you will teach in your work, in your career, in your offerings, by you having to step away, do the work on yourself, and then come back. You inspire or you uplift or you help heal other people in the process based on what you've gone through. So if you're feeling like you're going through a little bit of a disconnect at times, that is okay. Like can be part of the process, and just know that it's okay to go through those periods and go through those times where you step away. And it can, like I said, show up in the forms of arguments or retreating from one another, or just feeling a bit disconnected from people, and you will come back together again. You may come back together, you may not. Like everybody's here in their own soul journey and their own soul purpose. So I feel like I need to take a breath for a moment, but because I get really passionate about these things, and I just talk, and I just feel like I have so much to share and so much to say. So I cannot guarantee how long this episode is going to go for. But what I do when I listen to a podcast is sometimes I will, if it's a longer episode, I just want to keep listening, right? I pop my AirPods in and I just get so much housework done, or so much ironing or things done, because I just want to keep listening, and the episode's not over yet, so I just keep finding another job to do that I have to do around the house, not get on the computer, or things that actually need like my mental attention, but like those mundane things that you just used to doing, right? Like putting clothes away, washing up, cleaning, ironing, cooking, all those kind of things that you're just used to doing. So I will keep listening to the episode, or sometimes I will break it down in chunks. Like if I'm just in the car for 15 minutes, I'll listen and then I'll go back to it and kind of dive into it. So anyway, you do with this what you need to, but if it goes for a little while, it just will, okay? Whatever has to come out, I just let it flow. And however long it goes for, it just goes for. I don't set any time limits on myself. So be it, right? Let's see what happens. But like I said, I just need to take a breath and regroup, because there's so much I want to share here. So let me speak from a couple of different examples, because I think that this can help you with your understanding, I think it can help you relate. So when I talk about things that have happened in my life or people around me, I speak from the intent of leaving lessons or leaving like a lesson that's come out of it for me or somebody that I have seen that might just be a little bit more relatable for you. Okay. So I saw, for instance, I've shared a couple of things that I have been through, and just on that subject, actually, I know that from those things that I have been through, they have led me to where I am today. Some of these breakdowns in friendship circles or people that I was spending time with, or going through my own, like even last year, like when I spoke to you about how I had my breast implants removed and my hair was falling out, and I said no to a few things that I was going to go on. Like I was going to go on this base camp trek, and I had made the hard decision of saying no, like, and I felt like I let people down. It was needed for my soul growth. It was needed for what I had to go through at the time, and it led me to a place of being a better teacher, being more confident in myself to share. It led me to, because I felt alone, right? Like I felt like people maybe don't get me anymore. I felt that I had to retreat from the world for a period. And I look back and it was like an 18-month period where I was just probably ticking along with my business nicely, still showing up and doing what I love, but there was no real growth period in my business, but there was growth in me. So again, those periods, like I explained before, like when you go through like a game where you level up, you plateau. I felt like I went through a period in one area of my life where I plateaued, which I was just, like for the studio, for instance, I did not have the energy, the capacity to bring in any new big offerings, to run retreats, to do all of the things that I knew I had in me that I wanted to do. It was not the right time because I was over here going through a deep spiritual change and growth and finding myself in the process. So in this process, I'm feeling now like I want to start going into this next new year. I want to bring a lot more into my creative aspect of my business, but I had to go through the motions of figuring out a lot of stuff in myself. I had to go through the period of, like, I look back at the last 18 months, I quit working with the business coach that I was started to work with because I felt I really wanted to excel in certain areas of my business. I wanted to grow in certain areas of my business. Then I kind of stepped back and went, I actually don't want to work with this coach anymore because I feel I want to grow spiritually, and no disrespect, I loved her. She's amazing. But I really felt like there was a lot that I needed to just step back, go into this period of hibernation and work on myself. So there were a lot of offerings I held back on. There were a lot of opportunities that I didn't jump into. There were a lot of, I guess, change that needed to go on within me, so that then I could level up in my offerings. Then I could be more creative. Then I could level up in what I want to grow and share with the world and what I want to inspire people to do. I feel I'm a better teacher. I'm a better leader. I'm a better mother. I'm a better human being. Like, I'm a better person for the growth that I went through last year. But I felt lonely. I felt isolated. I felt like I just retreated from a lot of people because I needed to work on myself. So I want to give you the understanding and the permission that if you feel you need to retreat a little bit, that is okay, my friends. That is what is probably needed for you right now, knowing that, like seasons, you come out the other side and you go, I'm ready now, like that growth transformed me, just like the whole transformation that animals go through, like that metamorphosis from a caterpillar to a butterfly. You need to go into your cocoon for a little bit to emerge and bring out into your life what you're meant to create. Maybe open yourself up to receive more abundance, new relationships, new people, new offerings, new wealth, new prosperity, better health. All of these things are often needed, but go through that spiritual journey of feeling alone for a period. And that is okay. So I watched this unfold as well for, like, in my husband recently. I watched this unfold over the last kind of week and into the end of the year. So this is, for him, has been like almost a year process. And I also know that I needed to go through a bit of a growth period so that I could help him go through his, because like I said, we all go through different periods at different times. So that I could be there to support him, so that maybe I could inspire him. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but maybe people take away from things when they watch what other people go through as well. So maybe what I went through has left some things in him. Sometimes I want to help so much. I want to share. I want to teach. I want to, especially those closest to you that you love, you want to help so much. And sometimes they're the ones that don't listen to you the most, like your kids or your partner or your parents or your loved ones. You feel like you really want to help them so much, and they don't listen to you, that you need to, and I've learned this the hard way too, sometimes you need to shut up and listen more. You need to stop being the teacher, or stop sharing or preaching what you've gone through, and just stop and just step back and listen. And I've had to learn that the hard way, my friends. Don't you worry about that, as I'm sure many of you mums have too, with partners and with kids and things like that. But I watched him go through one of the biggest spiritual journeys of his life, which kind of started when we went to Bali in the new year, and he had gout flare up in his foot, right? And I thought to myself, like, I'd really love for him to read this book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And don't know why, because I hadn't read the book at that time, but that just come up to me. And I said to my friends as we're traveling with, I think, like this, no, we got talking in a conversation, and we were talking about what books because we both love reading, and we were away for 3 weeks, and what books we wanted to read on our trip. And what we brought with us. And she said, I brought this, and The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And I'm like, oh my God, can I borrow that? And can Tom borrow it? Because he's stuck in the villa. He can't, his gout was so bad. He was on crutches and couldn't walk. And we had like one of the best villas at the time, which was so beautiful in this resort, but it was the furthest one away, the most stairs, like the furthest one. And there was just no way he could walk all that way back and forward. So for 2 days, he kind of had to stay in the villa a little bit. And he read this book, and it was the book about the journey of a man who basically has all the stuff, all the things, the career, the title, the wealth, all those things, and he suffers a heart attack in the courtroom and had to reassess his whole journey, his whole meaning and purpose and fulfillment and things that had happened along the way in his life with relationships, and reassess everything. So it's no coincidence that I handed my husband that book to read, right? And I remember at dinner with my friends one night, I said, I just really feel like I'm worried about Tom. He was in a stressful job, and I just really feel like a train wreck's going to unfold for him next year. And I can't put my finger on it, but I just had this stirring, like, I said to them, I actually said, I'm scared he's going to have a heart attack or something. Like, I'm just scared. I just feel a train wreck is coming for him, and I could not put my finger on it. And I just said it out of just concern, out of worry, like something needs to change, because he has worked so hard, like many men out there, providing for their family and just working so hard and taking on so much stress and so much pressure and so much, they just spend their whole lives kind of just working so hard, and sometimes in a position that's not really fulfilling them on every level, but they get stuck. And women do this too. It's not like a man-female thing, but it can be. And they feel like they have just so much pressure to provide for everybody that they stay stuck in a job that maybe the money's good, maybe the perks are good, maybe the title's good, but it's not fulfilling their soul. And what happened was, I would worry about the stress that he was under. And then when we come back from Bali, literally the day we kind of come back and he went back to work, there was a big falling out, and he come home and went his separate ways with his work. Then not long after that, within like that was in the January, like the February, his dad took a turn, literally a couple of weeks, right? His dad took a turn for the worse and ended up in hospital and palliative care. And then his dad passed away. And then we moved house, and he physically got hit by a truck. So I look back and I go, holy shit, like he has just gone through some really big life-changing things for a man, for a human being to go through in his life, which has caused him to maybe question a lot of things, which has caused him to deep dive a little bit, well, a lot actually. And I saw a lot of things went on that were that basically happened they were out of his control, right? So sometimes things can happen where you have a stirring, where you know you need to make some changes. Sometimes things can happen that take you by surprise, that just completely happen out of your control, and there's nothing you can do about it except go with it. And in that process, with everything that he went through in that 6-month period. So there was a breakup of relationships, right? I've got to point to all of this. So there was a breakdown in relationships with his work. But there was also a lot of fulfillment in relationships as well. You know, like I just saw he had a lot of time to work on his own soul relationship. He had a lot of time to reassess a lot of relationships. He had a lot of time to be there for his mum and that mother-son relationship. So there was a lot of silver linings, even though it was hard at the time. There was a lot of growth that was needed as a result of him going his separate ways with that career breakup. And I saw in that whole time that he went through that, he stepped back and retreated from the world a lot. In terms of, he never dove straight back into his own, growing his own business. He never dove into getting stuck in that mindset of speaking badly about anybody. He never said a bad word about anyone involved. And he never stayed stuck in that story and telling everybody what went wrong and what happened to him. He never got stuck in that story at all. He retreated a lot and stood back from everything, took a step back from work, took a step back from people, took a step back from the world, and just took a bit of time to just find himself. It was not always easy. It was not always, there were a lot of things that he heard in that industry that was being said, a lot of mistruths that were being put out there. Because what do most people do when there's a breakup? It could be a work breakup, it could be a family break, like a marriage breakup, it could be a partnership breakup, it could be a friendship breakup. Most people go into survival mode. They blame, they pass judgment on other people, they tell everybody their story of what went wrong and what was done what injustice was done by them, how it was everybody else's fault. And they can stay in that situation for a really long time. And what happens is, when you stay in that situation, you stay in this mentality of being stuck, of replaying this story over and over again, of being stuck in this resentment, of being stuck in this place of you can't move forward if you continually talk about what has gone wrong with you or what people have done wrong by you, of bitching, of complaining, of whinging. And I'm not saying that you can't talk about it. It's important to talk about it. It's important to get off your chest. But how long do you sit in blame for? How long do you sit in that feeling of this went wrong to me, this happened to me? And of how long do you stay stuck in that story? You need to have that process of speaking about it. You need to have that process of getting it off your chest. You need to have that process of releasing it. But you also need to get to a place where you need to start healing. And that's what I watched in that process over that 6-month period. I watched him come to a really amazing place, and I learned so much from him. Sometimes I think, I'm the spiritual one. I'm the one that reads all the spiritual books, that does all of the spiritual work, that works on myself, that journals, that does all this stuff. And I sometimes stop and I look and I go, oh my gosh, he teaches me so much, or my kids teach me so much. But I know that everything that I do working on myself rubs off on those around me. And that's what happens to you too when you work on yourself. You, without even trying, like, the things that you do to work on yourself rub off on people around you as well. So what I also find is when you have these periods in your life where you feel like you go through this bit of a breakdown or a breakup, or you feel like this spiritual journey can feel a little bit isolating, or people aren't fulfilling you anymore, friendships drift, relationships come apart. Sometimes you just get to a point where, or even kids, right? Like, even you might get to a period where you feel a little bit lost because your kids leave school and your relationships, your dynamics in the household change, and you can stay in that period of feeling stuck, feeling lost. You have to sit with this period of, who am I? Like, what do I want? What fulfills me? What do I want to do moving forward? Because it's scary to go out on your own. It's scary when your kids get older and you have to go and find yourself and you have to go and do these things on your own. It's scary when you go through a relationship breakdown and you need to go and do things by yourself. It's scary when you have to embark on a new career or find a new job, or go and embark on starting a business. All of these things are scary, right? And I'm not saying they're easy. They are hard. They can be most challenging periods of your life, but they can be needed. They can be needed for you to bring in something new into your world. I've seen places where marriages have broken down, and I've seen one party go off and work on themselves and make so much change and do so much growth and go through therapy, go through counseling, go through reading, go through journaling, go through finding themselves again, and then attract the most amazing relationships of their life. I've seen partners do nothing and just quickly cling and jump into a new relationship as quickly as they left the old one, and do no growth on themselves, only to attract the same people, different people, but the same energy, the same vibration, because they haven't done any work on themselves, which is what I want to dive into next, is what can you do to move forward? I think the first thing to understand is sometimes we can sacrifice so much of ourselves to keep everyone else happy, to keep the relationship, to keep the friendship, to keep those people around us, that we want people to like us, but we don't like ourselves, or we want to keep everyone else happy, but we sacrifice making ourselves happy in the process. And so I think that what's important is to try not to fight it. Allow yourself that period that you need to cry, that you need to release. You need to feel the emotions of how you need to feel. You need to feel the hurt. You need to feel the anger. You need to feel the sadness. You need to feel those feelings. So if you need to cry, if you need to release, if you need to let all of that go, just sit with that and allow yourself to feel, have the emotional intelligence to feel what you need to feel. And try not to just allow what comes up. So, like, you might feel like you need to just go and have a shower. And at times because you're not going to know when it's going to hit you, you might need to just stand and cry in the shower, have a bath and just cry and release and let it all go. That's important so that you don't hold it within yourself. But try not to just bury it deep down, right? Like, the more you can bury things deep down, the more they just manifest in you physically, emotionally, mentally. They will come out eventually. So allow yourself to work through the emotions. Try not to blame people. Try not to get in the stuckness of, it's not even a word. Try not to get stuck in the place of just blaming everybody else around you, and take a little bit of responsibility. And sometimes, yes, things happen that are not your fault. Like, sometimes things are inflicted on you that are not your fault. So I'm not saying accept responsibility for that, but accept responsibility for where you are now and go, okay, this is where I am. What can I do moving forward? Have mercy for other people, because it's easy to have compassion to someone that hasn't harmed you or inflicted hurt and pain on you. But mercy is also having compassion for someone who has. Try and forgive, and just have this compassion for the people that have possibly hurt you. try and just feel from a place of forgiveness in your heart, because when you have forgiveness in your heart, it frees you from being stuck. It frees you from staying in that place forever, and it actually opens you up to allow what needs to come into your life to flow into your life. So the more that you give, the more you receive. The more you give love and kindness and compassion, the more you look at others through the eyes of love, the eyes of God, the eyes of source, the more you look at others through those eyes of love, the more you get back that reflection and that abundance of love into your life. So it's really important to forgive, to release, to not blame, and to have compassion for everybody else involved. Reflect and ask the questions, because when you ask questions, you get answers. So you might want to sit and journal. You might want to reflect, like when you're driving, when you're having a shower, wherever feels nice for you. Maybe first thing in the morning, because first thing is one of the most spiritually connected times where you can ask the right questions and you will get answers. So based on the things that I've already said, you might have some questions. You might want to ask things like, why did my marriage or career or friendship, or why did these things come apart? What hasn't been serving me or holding me back that I actually need to let go of? What growth do I need outside of this relationship? What does my soul truly need right now? Ask those questions and just write or listen and just see what comes up for you. But asking really good questions can give you really good guidance. Accept and surrender and trust. Just accept that sometimes these things happen that are out of our control, but they happen for the best. It could be accepting that this is a temporary break where you all need time to go on your own to heal and to come back together, but it also may be a permanent break. It might be something that actually needs to end. Surrender and trust that it's meant to be. If you're meant to find your way back together again, you will be. And be okay with letting it go, knowing that this is for everybody's highest good, for their highest good and your highest good, always having that mutual exchange of energy. And I know that it's not easy, and I know that these things can be hard, but deep down your soul knows what is best for you. So surrendering and trusting that my soul knows best, that however this is meant to unfold will unfold for my highest good. And then look at what actions are you going to take, right? Like, are you going to take the action of staying in coping mechanisms, of replaying that story out to everybody who will listen about why it was somebody else's fault or how you did nothing wrong? Are you going to step into actions of coping mechanisms? It could be, like those things that people do to cope, right? And I'm not saying this is you, but these could be extreme: alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling. Like they're the extremes, right? But it can also be things like going to addictions, to social media, to shopping, to diving into your work, to desperately jumping into a new relationship. What are your actions? It could just be that you're not doing anything to move you forward. So then start looking at actions that you can take, which as maybe start the process of self-discovery, maybe getting out more, grounding, getting out in nature more, going and starting a yoga class or some kind of women's circle, or listening to audios or podcasts, or reading spiritual books, or things that are going to help you start journaling, things that are going to help you in that process of reflection. How can I look after myself better, right? So what can I do for self-care? Maybe you need to clean up your diet. Maybe you need to start exercising. Maybe you need to get out in the fresh air. Maybe you need to back off from work a little bit and actually do some self-care. Maybe you need to take a little bit more time to sleep, to rest, to heal, to get massages. You know what it is, right? That feels good for you. What is it that you love doing? Think back to like, what did I love doing as a child? Like if it's a career change, what am I passionate about? What lights me up? What do I actually love doing? Because finding things that bring you joy are such an amazing thing to help you heal, to help you find yourself again, to help you find new circles of people. So facing some fears, I'm going to rattle these off really quickly, right? But sometimes you might have to face some fears. You might be afraid of doing things on your own. You might be afraid of going and joining a class on your own, or turning up to something new on your own, meeting new people. there comes a point where you go, do I stay stuck or do I face my fears? Because facing your fears is the only way. You can't release your fears. You got to work through your fears. Maybe you get so frightened going out by yourself. Maybe go to one of your favorite places that you love to eat. Take a book, go and have lunch by yourself, go to the beach by yourself, do these things by yourself, because it's empowering. As a woman doing some things on your own, you find more confidence, you find more of yourself, you find more power in doing some things on your own, because you might not have done these things before because you did what pleased everybody else. So now it's time for you and to do some things that you actually enjoy. It could be finding some peace in your day. How can I bring in more peace? Whether it's meditation, going to a yoga class, whether it's sitting out in silence in nature, whether it's just going to bed of a nighttime and instead of turning on the TV or jumping on socials, light some candles, put on some incense, listen to some beautiful music, and journal and find some things that bring you peace in your home. It could be maybe you need to travel, maybe you need to explore, maybe you need to do things that you've never done because you felt held back, but you actually really had this calling to do it. Maybe now's the time to do it. Maybe volunteering. How can I serve? When you give to other people and you are looking out for other people and serving and volunteering, you make new connections, you fulfill something deep within you that your soul needed to fulfill. That is really, really, like when your kids leave home, what can I do to give to other people? You've got this mothering instinct in you. How can I put that into another purpose that's fulfilling? It could be that you need to study. It's something you've always wanted to study and you've been afraid or been too busy or not had time or not been allowed to, or whatever stopped you in the past. Can you look at studying and finding, or something creative? It doesn't have to be study like a career, something creative that you've wanted to do. It could be like a dance class you've wanted to go to, or a artistic class, a painting or music or something. Go and do the things, right? Go and do the things that you've wanted to do. Find your inspiration again, find your love again, find your passion again, because it's in those processes that you raise your vibration. It's when you raise your vibration, you connect with people on that same vibration that are meant to be in your life. So do those things that are going to bring you back up. But it's a process, right? You can't just go from despair to joy. It's a process of getting yourself out of funks. It's a process of getting yourself out of the hurt, the anger, the despair, to go, okay, what's one little thing that I can do that just makes me feel a little bit better today? It could be a nice music, it could just be something little that I've mentioned that just makes you feel a little bit better. If you listen to, I love Abraham Hicks, she talks about this vibrational scale of how top is like joy, passion, fulfillment, bottom is, I can't remember, it's along the lines of like, absolute despair. And she talks and teaches you, I'm not going to do that today, but how to move up that vibrational scale, and how it's not like this massive jump from despair to joy. It's a process of moving up that scale. I can't remember what she calls it, but it's something about the vibrate. Google Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks vibrational scale or emotional scale, and that's really, really amazing thing to have a little study of. So I'm wrapping this up, right, because I've gone for a very long time. One thing I want to read out. I pulled a card this morning in my practices, and I had a feeling that I needed to share this episode today. And one thing that when I pulled my cards, I said, please also give me, I pulled like 4, and I said, give me a card that is going to help my listeners today that are going through this. And I pulled out of my Unveiling the Golden Age deck, Whispers of the Universe, number 55. And it said, there is a dawning awareness that it is time for further soul expansions. Release the old to make way for the new. I want to read a little bit out of this because I know that this is going to touch you in some way. This card speaks of spiritual transition and initiation, letting go of the familiar and inviting in the unknown. You feel your spirit calling you to the next phase of your evolution. It's time now to begin, to open, to change. Feelings of sadness may present themselves with this change, but you know wholeheartedly that it is appropriate right now. Your inner eye sees the path from a greater perspective. So your soul basically sees this before you may see it with your mind. Your inner eye sees the path from a greater perspective of how this unfolds. You're transitioning to an upgraded frequency of being, so anything outdated or at a lower vibration may present itself right now. This allows you to see it for what it is and free it from your field with love and grace. Let memories simply be memories without needing to make stories from them. It may also be a time to reevaluate your beliefs, your values, your priorities. These may have shifted in alignment with your recent growth. Acknowledge what is serving you or not and what you will bring with you moving forward. This card also invites you to take a good hard look at anything that might be holding you back. What can you transform? These are good questions too, by the way. What can you transform? What can you let go of? What do you need to accept? What can stay? Where can you cultivate a change in perception? Sometimes it's hard for us to change when loved ones are used to seeing us a certain way. Perhaps we need to take a time out from particular energies if we can. Once you see your transformational path ahead, you must decide what to do with that information. If you feel a relationship needs to end, that can be hard. It does not mean the actual connection will be lost. Perhaps the lesson is about creating a fresh, new relational space with that same someone. Even better if it can grow together. This image on this card, okay, that's all I need to read out of that card. So I hope you took something out of that, but I just want you to know that whatever is happening for you right now, this is allowing you to return to the essence of your true self. More self-knowledge, more self-awareness of your own unique soul and what your needs are in this moment. This is going to lead you back to that place where you can express yourself with ease, with grace, with what your soul needs the most and what your soul needs to share. You will get to a place where you'll feel like this flow of energy, this river is moving through you, because healing is liberation. Healing is hard, but it is going to liberate you. And what you are going through is going to inspire you to help others return to their own essence as well. And then that essence of you, of who you are, will flow into everything that you create. So when you find yourself, it is going to flow into new relationships. It's going to flow into new fulfillment. It's going to flow into your purpose. It's going to flow into new career, to love, your purpose, your fulfillment. It is all going to flow so much more ease, and with more ease, with more effort, with more grace. But we need to move through this little bit of a hard time at the moment. So I've left you with a lot today. I've been like a fire hose and I've just had so much to share. So you may need to listen to this again. You know, I actually listen to podcasts. Sometimes I will just listen to them over and over again, because what I find is you will listen, then your mind will wander and you'll start thinking about how that affects or how that relates to your current life. And then you'll miss a bit, right? When you start thinking and reflecting, you go, I just missed the last 5 minutes of what that person said. So repetition and listening to things over and over is good. You probably get sick of my voice, but if you feel an urge to listen to this again, that is great. If you feel you need to break it down into little bits, that's amazing as well. So I know you would have taken what you needed out of this today, and I know that you are going to evolve, you are going to shine, you are going to grow, you are going to bring so much light and love into your life, so much abundance into your life, and that is what I wish to send to you, angels. Have the most amazing day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more, feel free to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. You can also head over to earthyangels.com or join our private Facebook group, Earthy Angels Connect, for more community, blogs, updates, inspo, motivation, support, and to connect with a tribe of like-minded souls. And if you have a moment, we would be super grateful if you would love to leave a review. Sending you so much light and love, Angel.